Ghost Recon Wildlands closed beta was last week. Or open. Closed. For Honor open beta. What the fuck is going on?
Wow.
Sorry,
yes.
Ghost Recon Wildlands closed beta.
Yes.
Was we were playing on PS4 and PC last week in the office and over the weekend.
Yes.
I think it was like Friday to Sunday.
We did a stream of it too.
And if you don't know much about Wildlands yet, it's essentially they're making this open world sandbox in Colombia, and you're essentially trying to take down the drug cartel because there aren't 300 movies and games where you're doing that already. It's fresh. It's newly trodden ground.
Never been there.
Drugs are
But after the takeaway that like Jake Decker was playing, and he was the one that kind of raised the idea for this segment. Aaron Sampson was playing. I know Rob tried it out. I couldn't get past the menu. Rob Handler and Jake Decker while they were playing.
Press the X button.
Yeah, it said I was connected, but then there was this overlay saying you can't connect to the servers. But then in the background on the main title screen it said you're connected. But then that would go away, and I would try to play a game and it said you're disconnected. I don't know what it was. We've been having problems with with For Honor Ubisoft connections lately. Something with a
just
weird
within
NAT
the
type.
office.
Yeah,
It's like the NAT
clear.
type or something.
It's like our NAT type, which no idea what CBS is up to, but hopefully they're not watching because I don't want to be fired.
They're making that show about the nerds. I forget what it's called.
Which one?
The show about the nerds.
The show about the nerds.
Oh, Big Bang.
Big Bang.
Nice. I actually didn't know what you were talking about. I don't know what CBS owns.
You were kidding, right?
What?
You didn't forget the name of that show.
No, I forgot the name.
That was not one of my jokes. I legitimately did not know.
Oh my God.
Anyway, after playing that, people said, it's kind of a common phrase as new sequels come out and these franchises start evolving and adapting and kind of trying to figure out what audiences want and what they're going to pay for, more specifically. It feels more like people are saying this seems like they're going for a GTA thing with Ghost Recons. I made the comparison watching Jake play, like scoping out an area, kind of sneaking in. I made the comparison to Metal Gear Solid 5, a game which you and I both really like. Callie, you were saying you haven't played too much of it yet?
No.
Okay. It's essentially just the whole loop of the stealth in an open world, right? And you don't have to be stealthy in this. The big thing they push, I think it was an E3 reveal like 2 years ago, 2015, I believe. Ubisoft is saying, yeah, you can. They showed the same gameplay trailer twice, just one they going in guns blazing, one being stealthy.
This looks almost exactly like the first mission in Metal Gear Solid 5. Like the location of the first mission.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it essentially, people are saying it doesn't feel like a Ghost Recon game, which
What's in a name?
Right. I don't always like Resident Evil 7 doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game, but I think it does. Well, sorry. At first glance, it does not, but then you start playing and you see the roots of it.
Gotcha.
People are saying they don't see any Tom Clancy in this a lot, like aside from the aesthetic, the military aesthetic, right?
That's not Tom Clancy? I thought you played as Tom Clancy.
No. That's Ding Chavez, the main character from the old Rogue Rainbow Six. It's not Ding Chavez.
Ding?
That's Willem Dafoe.
Wait, Ding?
Have you seen the movies? Read the books? I used to be a huge Tom Clancy nerd. That's why I wanted to do this segment.
Man, you were gripping that microphone in anticipation of something. I don't know what.
What? No, I'm not.
Wait,
Look at you.
Can we talk about the name Ding really quickly?
It's Ding Chavez. Look up. I'm not kidding. Have you guys seen Clear and Present Danger, Patriot Games, all the Tom Clancy stuff?
Harrison Ford stuff.
Yes. And then one of the main recruits for Rainbow Six is Ding Chavez.
Ding.
Look it up. You can play it. I told Jean-Luc to have.
I just like making fun of it.
I told Jean-Luc, hopefully he has it ready. I have to get like Rainbow Six Rogue Spear footage ready. We're gonna get into the argument of this segment soon, but I want to like show you what I like about. Stop that. What I like about like Tom Clancy stuff. Rogue Spear is one of my favorite games, and I think that when you lose you can play this in third person too, which is what I always did. It looks cooler. I wish that was Ding Chavez at the bottom. That's not. That is
Ding
Novikov. I don't know.
This is not Novikov.
Vladimir Nabokov, the author. he's in Spetsnaz now. No, it's essentially Wildlands. Like Jake Decker was just chiming in the Twitch chat. It feels like they're going for more of a open world sandbox thing, whereas like the Division was going for more of the RPG loot grind Destiny kind of game, and in some ways, and. Then you have Rainbow Six Siege, which started off as this tactical team shooter, but now as they introduce the updates, Aaron Sampson plays it a lot. He's been saying it's becoming less and less tactical, and it's falling more into that hero shooter category almost, which like Overwatch, Battleborn,
Class-based shooter. Please.
Class-based shooter.
Oh,
you and your
Battleborn.
terminology.
Every time I hear the word Battleborn, I get sad.
I'll throw Battleborn into the conversation anytime. I think that game's fun. But I wanted to talk to you guys about whether you think Tom Clancy games are losing their identity. Because like I said, I'm not always one of those people who says like, oh, this doesn't feel like a Zelda game or this doesn't feel like a Metroid game. But in this case, I don't want Tom Clancy to just become this homogenous thing that blends in with all the other franchises, because Tom Clancy games to me were always that there were the tactical things to it. When they first showed off the trailer for Rainbow Six Patriots, when you had to make those decisions, like, do I throw this civilian off the bridge to let the bomb blow him up, but also not hurt like 500 more people? Like, that was cool because that was the, like the fighting in the shadows when no one really knows you're there. Kind of, there's no glory. It's just these preemptive military strikes. Rainbow Six Vegas, I love those two games. They're the tactical first-person shooters, but
so what does this retain that does resemble Tom Clancy?
that's what everybody's saying. With Wildlands, it seems like there's even less Tom Clancy than the Division had, which the Division didn't have much to begin with, just the aesthetic. So it's like Tom Clancy is just this.
I forgot
like
that was a Tom Clancy game.
Yeah, it's
Me
like
too,
the paint
actually.
is just it's like a paint now.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand. I think that sometimes a franchise deviating from its roots can be a good thing. I also think like when you are a fan of something that's known for, like Tom Clancy being known for tactical elements, having it shift so far away from that when there are other options for similar games that are doing the same things it's trying to do, it's like, okay, well, why did I bother buying this game if I can play, Black Ops 3 and pick like a specialist and it's basically like you have a sort of hero thing going on. Like, why do I need another game like this? I went to Tom Clancy for tactical stuff and now I don't have that. So I can understand the frustration.
Yeah, totally. It's the wanting to make money in the short term based on these trends, right? And then, but in the long term, what are you sacrificing?
Maybe it's what Thomas wants. Can I call him Thomas?
Sure. Okay. I think it usually you start with
formal.
You start with the formal thing, and then when you get familiar, you call him Tom.
Yeah.
Clancy-san.
Call him, okay. So my boy T's games right now have been kind of like losing what I love about them. And yeah, short term, they're kind of maybe cashing in is really just being reductive and being kind of mean to Ubisoft. But I feel like they're cashing in on the Destiny loot grind, MMORPG cooperative shooter experience. Like I said, Rainbow Six Siege, I think, is catering more to that class-based shooter structure. I think...
There's a history here you don't know about, Kelly.
I'm scared.
And then Eric Green, that brings up a very good point in YouTube. Mike should ask himself if the marketing of applying the Tom Clancy name works in making him buy a game he may not otherwise have bought. Very, very good point, because if The Division was not a Tom Clancy game, I still would have tried it, and I think I would have had less expectations, whereas I don't think I would care about Wildlands if it wasn't a Tom Clancy game. So there's a two-sided coin, right?
Is it maybe more the themes and the setting that kind of makes you feel like there's a stronger connection this time around to something Tom Clancy would be a part of, but then the mechanics fall short?
With Wildlands?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah, because that's the original, Tom Clancy stuff was about drug cartel in South America. And that's why I was attached to it. But like Eric Green mentioned, I don't think I would care about Wildlands because it looks like they're going for a dumbed-down vanilla kind of Metal Gear Solid 5 experience.
Well, we don't know if it's dumbed down.
We don't, but from what everybody's playing, from what I played, it didn't feel great. But that was a beta.
That's a beta. It doesn't.
True. Yeah, obviously this is all based on my beta experience, but I didn't get, like, the last Ghost Recon was Future Soldier, and I actually really liked that. It wasn't the best one, but I think the campaign was really good. I think it emphasized this kind of modern combat, this like preemptive military strikes with drones, with these with robots and whatnot. But also it kind of had some cool things to say about that as it went through about like the dehumanization of war and whatnot.
Sure.
But I still liked it because it felt like a Tom Clancy game. And like I said, this is weird for me because I usually am not one of those people who says like, oh, this doesn't feel like a Zelda game. Why are they doing this? Like, they're sacrificing what made it great to begin with. In this case, I feel like they're picking apart one specific franchise on Ubisoft's part and just kind of exploding it out to meet all these different trends. And that's why I'm kind of worried, because I actually played more of The Division recently. It's been like 6 episodes of the lobby where I've said I wanted to get back into playing, and I did. And I like the survive mode. I think that actually fits into The Division well. For those who don't know, that's where you're actually going through this disease-infected, almost post-apocalyptic Manhattan, and trying to survive through the cold and through your thirst and hunger. But Wildlands, from what I've seen and from what I've heard and from the brief time I've played in the beta, again, it did not feel like I was playing this tactical game at all. And that's what I was looking for with it. Like a tactical shooter in a sandbox. I mean, you're not going to be... I don't think a game's going to come along anytime soon that's better than Metal Gear Solid 5 at doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't dislike the fact that they're going for that, but it feels like it's missing the mark now. The co-op side of it makes it a little more enticing. I know Jake Decker and Aaron Sampson and Rob Handler were having much more fun playing in co-op.
And having tutorial in the middle of making
here's how to sit on a helicopter. So I'll probably play this when it comes out. But like Eric Green had mentioned, would I be as interested if it wasn't a Tom Clancy game? No. But I would have been more interested in The Division, I think, if it was just its own thing and I wasn't expecting it to be a Tom Clancy game. Sorry, correction. I would have enjoyed it more if I wasn't trying, I didn't think it was a Tom Clancy game. So I was just worried that in the long term, what does it even mean to be a Tom Clancy game anymore? Like 5 years down the road, if all of these different properties, Ghost Recon,
I think
The
we're already
Division's
there.
brand new.
I think it's already it's been diluted.
And I wish like Rainbow Six stuck to its roots. People in the chat are saying it's still pretty tactical, and I agree. But I think, and Aaron Sampson has dissected the game a lot. He's a video producer here. He was saying that just like a lot of the updates they're doing are making it more of just a regular shooter, still tactical, much more tactical than like Overwatch or something of that ilk. But now it's just, I feel like it's kind of being this vanilla tactical shooter rather than this really hardcore. I hate using that phrase because it sounds like I'm alienating and marginalizing people that just want these shooters. But I feel like Tom Clancy in the long run, and like you said, maybe we're already there, and Tom Clancy games don't mean what they used to be.
I'm sad now.
Don't feel bad for Mike.
Yeah. But then there's these rays of hope, like Resident Evil 7. I know I just earlier used that example. That was just me thinking out loud because Resident Evil 6 was the one where like, what the fuck is this? Resident Evil 7 is a return to the roots, which we keep saying, but it makes sense. Yeah,
no, I also
but it's also
agreed with
adapted
that.
for modern palates, and that's Resident Evil 7. I have something else going up soonish about why I think Resident Evil 7 is actually a really fucking important game because one of Japan's biggest developers and one of the like leading franchises, at least, well, maybe not in recent years, but Resident Evil itself, the fact that they could kind of take a risk and go back to survival horror is kind of proof that maybe people should do this. So maybe, like obviously this is a stretch, but maybe Ubisoft needs to look at Resident Evil 7 and say, how can we take what made Tom Clancy games great to begin with and adapt it in our own way rather than follow Destiny or follow...
Or how can they take the
Solid
Tom
5.
Clancy name and break out the things that people like and make them their own franchise?
Exactly. Make another new IP like The Division, but in its own kind of game. Not a Destiny clone. Yeah. Survival mode, I guess. If you're going to play Division, play survival mode. Yeah, the next Splinter Cell game would be... Yeah, so Blacklist. Speaking of that, Splinter Cell Blacklist. Thank you, Billy Combe, for bringing up Splinter Cell. I'm sure other people did. I just didn't see the chat. Splinter Cell Blacklist, I really actually thought did this well. But that was what, 2012? Blacklist, you guys remember? Someone in the chat, can you tell me what year Splinter Cell Blacklist was? I'm forgetting right now. It was like at least 4 years ago. I think they did a great job because you have those 3 trees you can go down where you can play the traditional Splinter Cell way. It was a very good stealth game if you want to, but then they had these side quests where you're going, and this mission is very much stealth. Don't even get seen. If these missions, you will immediately fail if you're seen.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Dishonored, like completely non-lethal run or anything. And then there's this one tree where it's assault, and it felt good for a third-person shooter. It didn't feel like Splinter Cell, but it was still an option. And then like the last boss fight in that game is bullshit. I love everything about this game except for that last boss fight. Blacklist, I think, is an example of what Tom Clancy games need to be. It took what made Splinter Cell great to begin with, and it didn't sacrifice that, but it also added on to it, and I think adapted it from modern palettes, and I really liked it.
Yep.
I don't know. Did you play Blacklist?
No, but I mean, just from you describing it, I think that's a really smart way to adapt something for both like returning players and introducing it to new people is like giving options. I think that's smart. It's hard to execute sometimes, but
Sure, and then they have like you kind of just saw like you mentioned Black Ops 2 and 3 or sorry, Black Ops Black Ops 3
with the specialists. Yeah.
Black Ops also has that hub in
Blacklist?
the campaign. No, Black Ops has that hub in the campaign. That's what Call of Duty games started doing because Infinite Warfare had it as well, where that's where all the RPG mechanics are tied into.
Where you like upgrade your weapons and
Blacklist
stuff.
did that really well, and I think that was a very modern trope at the time, and it still is, I guess. But you go back between missions to pick, that old school map, which Neo actually has, like a Mario map. You're picking. I'm comparing Splinter Cell to Mario. You're picking like which parts of the Mushroom Kingdom you want to infiltrate and kill. But anyway,
Mario Odyssey coming.
Splinter Cell Blacklist. If you haven't played it, I recommend it. Okay. I think we've talked enough about how worried I am about Tom Clancy.
Did you get it out of your
games.
system?
I think so. Did you get that YouTube kid out of your system?
Yeah, last week.
Callie, what do you want to vent
I
about?
secretly still hate it.
I come back to me on that. I'm angry about so much anger.
All right. For those just joining, we are going to get into Neo and Nintendo Switch. So we will get to those. We have one more segment. We have a bit of an odd segment for lobby stuff, but I'm excited to show it. First off, if you have any thoughts, I see Mr. Rachinator. Siege is still extremely tactical. The more operators they add, the more tactical it becomes. I totally agree. I think they're still going for the hero class-based shooter, but I appreciate the fact that it's still much more tactical than like Overwatch or Battleborn or what other class-based shooters came out last year.
You're trying so hard not to say hero shooter. I love it.
Yeah, but also when Titanfall 2 had like class-based shooter things like with the Titans. They went more to that. Hero shooter, because Titan used to be a class-based shooter, and then they made it into a hero shooter with these super-powered Titans. One has like flame powers.
What are their perks like, Mike? What kind of perks?
Let me describe this. An entity that shoots flames.
Sure.
And mainly has powers around flames, or powers around lasers, or powers around missiles. What would you call those? Like someone with superpowers that, does good deeds. What would you call that, Peter Brown?
Now, see, I would look and try to figure out the roles that they fill in a general sense, and then apply that to a class. Wouldn't get hung up on superficial details like fire.
Okay. People in the chat, let me know your thoughts about Tom Clancy. I'll try to keep up, but also tweet at me, Mike Mahardy, Peter Brown, Callie Plaggy, for your thoughts.